Carson said, "Do you remember the man who acted really nice, but he was mean?" I realized that Carson was talking about the Oklahoma City bombing. It was very frightening. And I said, "Did your sisters talk to you about Oklahoma? Did they see something?" And Carson said no.
She would have never heard any of that on the TV or from us or anything. So it was like, well, that was kind of scary since it was like a real thing.
I'd never heard about an Oklahoma bombing until Carson started talking about it, so I couldn't have told her.
Oklahoma City happened in 1995, and Carson was born in 1999. As a parent, it is frightening because you don't really know where to go or who to talk to. So I kept a diary, and then I did a lot of research to discover what really happened in Oklahoma City.
What appears to be a car bomb has done massive damage to the federal building in downtown Oklahoma City.
So as time went on, Carson started to get more specific in her memories about the Oklahoma City bombing. She and I would always talk when I tucked her into bed. One night, Carson told me something that I still can't quite get over. That she had been in the baby part of the building when the building caught on fire and fell down.
I didn't really think it was true what she was talking about, that maybe she just wanted attention probably.
I was sad because to come to bed at night and be thinking about her death or her past death isn't a traditional childhood. It made me think a lot and reevaluate my own views on reincarnation and parenting. But then one night, Carson told me something that was very upsetting. I felt like crying. Carson told me that I was not her real mom, that her real mom lived in Oklahoma, and that she wanted to go see her. As a mom, that was heart-wrenching. It felt like she loved this other mom more than me. It is painful. It puts a little knife in the heart. I've always wanted to be able to give Carson closure, but I haven't been able to. Her memories about the Oklahoma City bombing are just fragments that I've never been able to piece together. Those fragments don't really tell me who she was in her past life.
The memories were never scary. I think they were, more sad than scary. I just remember I missed my mom. Well, not my mom now, but my mom from Oklahoma, how I missed her a lot.
Carson started having memories at the age of 5 about Oklahoma. I didn't feel that I could take her to Oklahoma then. But now that she's 12, I feel that she needs to go to Oklahoma. By going, I hope that she'll be able to let go of her past life, of her past family.
I hope Carson finds out some stuff about how Oklahoma happened and maybe resolve some things. That'll probably be good for her, that she could go back to the place where I guess she died before she was really born.
I'm kind of scared, really, honestly. I don't know if she has the ability to handle it and deal with the emotions.
We come here to remember those who were killed. May this memorial offer comfort, strength, peace, hope, and serenity.
Wow. It happened between 901 and 903. Those are the chairs. They are for each person who died.
So the building was 9 stories high, and there are 9 rows.
Right.
The second floor was the baby part. So that's why most of the chairs are a little on the second row.
It's amazing how close I am to where it all happened.
Why did you want to come back here so much?
To see my mom.
Did you miss her?
Yeah. I don't feel sad about it anymore, really.
As a mom, the chairs were overwhelming to me to know that all of those children were lost to families. And I just couldn't imagine what it would feel like to be that mom who had this child. And here I am standing with this amazing girl who remembers all of this. I just kept telling her it was okay to cry. And we just stood there, and I just held her. And really, the two of us just cried. It was very emotional.
My son Shane didn't act like other children from the very beginning. Shane had a sense of justice from a very young age. What's right, what's wrong, and getting even. But my main concern for Shane was his fascination for guns. I was really doubting myself as a parent. I was worried. I was honestly worried. When Shane was about 6, we went to a Boy Scouts meeting, and there was a guest speaker, a soldier in fatigues, dressed up, standing there. And Shane looks and he's like, Mom, is he for real? Can I go talk to him? Come with me, I need to talk to him. Is he for real? Can I talk to him? I'm like, holy crap. All the other kids are running around in the gym. They couldn't care less about the guy standing up in front. Shane's like, he's like frozen. He's like, oh my God. He stayed by that guy's side the whole cub meeting, fascinated by the soldier. I was confused. This one day, he said something that really shocked me. This one morning, in the spring, I was getting him ready for school. Shane was sitting down at the table eating his cereal. I was getting his lunch ready for school, and we're just chit-chatting. And all of a sudden, he looks at me. He's like, Mom, did you know I was a grown-up before? So I looked at him like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, I used to be a grown-up because I think this is the 3rd time I come back. I didn't know what to answer. I didn't want to dismiss it either. I just didn't know how to respond. I didn't think of anything other than, where is this coming from? It was so matter-of-factly the way he said it to me that I knew there was more to it, but I wasn't ready to hear it that morning.
I definitely thought that Shane just had a very good imagination. Creativity runs through the family, so I thought he was just adding on to it.
We grew up Catholic, so you die, you go to heaven, and that's about it. We've never talked about any past lives or reincarnation. I mean, it's not a common conversation. He wouldn't have heard of anything like that.
When Shane was 3 and I was 13, he came up to me and said, I remember when I was your size. I just looked at him. I was like, no, you are smaller than me. You're my younger brother. You've never been taller or my size. He was like, but I have been. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. No, you couldn't have been.
So a couple of weeks passed by, and then on the weekend, again, at the breakfast table, I sat down, I said, Shane, I go, you remember when you told me you were a grown-up before? And he was like, yeah, I remember. He goes, I was 14, and they wouldn't let me join the military. I wanted to join the military, but they wouldn't let me join. So he started saying, Mom, you know the war when all the girls went to the city. Instead of answering, yeah, I know the war, I answered him with a question. I said, well, why did the girls go to the city, Shane? He said, well, to work, Mom, because all the guys were gone to war. And that's when I was floored. There's no way that a 5-year-old could know this, that the reason that the women went to work in the city were because most of the guys had been drafted to go to war. That was World War II. Then things escalated. He goes, Mom, I was shot. He goes, and it burns. It burns so much. And he was holding his middle section, and it really burns, Mom. For me, in my head, I was like, is my son actually telling me this? Is this really happening? I'm still catching up with trying to make sense of what I'm hearing, to actually understand any emotion that I was having. And I'm like, oh my God. It sounded like a soldier that had been to war, that had been shot, and was retelling his story from the grave through my son.
When I found out that he had been shot before, it literally just complete utter silence within me. How do you even comprehend that you can die? No one in our family or friends had died around the time, so why did he know about it? Where did it come from?
There's no TV show. We don't have any family members that are veterans. There's nobody around us that talks about this. It's a surreal feeling because you know that that little child in front of you didn't actually feel that. But he remembers it. You know that your child was never shot because he's in front of you. But he remembers how it feels to be shot. I'll never forget him telling me.
Shane couldn't lie for the life of him. Anytime he would go to lie, he had this giant smirk on his face. So when he would say these things, we knew it couldn't be a lie.
After he told me and I started processing all the information and linking it to all of his behaviors early on as a little baby, from smacking me if I tapped him on the fingers, to his obsession for guns, everything was clicking. It was like, oh my God, the other things that happened up until then suddenly made all the sense in the world. Now I know why. That was a past life. That's why it's affecting him now. It's not who he is today. It's memories that are there. For me, it felt like a relief. Okay, there's no way around it. This is for real. He was there. There's no way he could know this without being there. Wow. You know, he's carrying all this with him. And then he started talking more and he goes, Mom, how does it work? Do you shrink back into a baby? And I was like, whoa. Well, I don't know, Shane. I don't know how it works. How do you answer this? How do you give him a straight answer? I'm completely clueless.
Jada has always been concerned with the safety in our house. If we burn a fire, she's not afraid of the fire, but she will ask, are our fire alarms working? Have you changed the batteries? Is everything okay with that? It's uncanny how she fears for her safety. And this is something that has been going on for as long as she's been with us. I never really expected her to grow out of this. I always had the feeling that it would come to a head someday. A few years ago, something happened with Jada that really freaked me out. The girls and I had gone to the Festival of the Fires in Ireland for several years. We had never participated in marching in the parade or any of the bigger events because the girls were so young. But when Jada was 6, going on 7, they asked the children to be in the parade, which marched around the big bonfire. The girls were excited and they agreed to do this. They got all dressed up. They were carrying flags and banners, and the processional started pretty far away from where the huge bonfire was, and it wound its way up the hill, and then eventually everybody went and circled the big bonfire. In keeping with Jada tradition, I had to walk alongside the processional going up the hill so that Jada would even participate. Everything was going along smoothly, and people were chanting and singing and dancing, and then they lit the bonfire. And at first you could hear the crackling, and the fire was kind of building from the side that was opposite to where we were standing. Then all of a sudden the fire took off, whoosh, and the entire bonfire was lit. And within seconds, Jada was screaming bloody murder. And she was rolling around on the ground just screaming, help, 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 help. I wasn't far away, so I went running straight over to her. So eventually I had to pick Jada up, throw her over my shoulder, and carry her the entire way down. And this hill is a big hill.
I was pretty upset seeing her that way.
She got in the car, and just like she'd seen a ghost, she was petrified. So I drove home, and I was trying to talk to her the whole way home, and Gemma was holding her hand, and she was trying to talk to her. Nothing. I mean, she was absolutely beside herself. She had seen something had happened in that moment that absolutely changed her.
I didn't really understand what was going on for her, but I felt bad for her.
This was not simply the case of a little girl being frightened by a large crowd. This was serious to the point where if another medical professional had been there, they would have thought she was having some kind of a psychotic episode. The whole thing was incredibly distressing. I have never been more afraid. In the morning when she awakened, the first thing I wanted to know was what in the world happened last night. She just kind of blanked me as if to say, don't even go there.
Jada wouldn't speak of it.
As a mom, I wanted to push Jada to tell me what was going on. But as a doctor, I recognized that something else was happening here, and it was better not to push her and to let her tell me what had happened in her own time. I spoke to some friends and colleagues, and the general consensus was it was no big deal, if I shouldn't be worried, and that it probably would never happen to Jada again. About 6 months later, Jada was taking a bath one Sunday morning, and I was right next to the bathroom where I could talk to her and she could hear me. Jada just suddenly called me and said, Mom, do you remember that day? Do you remember the fire? And I hadn't thought about this in months now at this stage, and I said, yeah, of course I remember. And she said, do you want to know why I got so upset? And I was absolutely flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that she was talking so casually about it. It was like, again, something had shifted. It was like this awareness just came about her, and she could speak very matter-of-factly about it. She wasn't crying. She was just suddenly ready to tell me what happened. Jada says to me, Mom, do you remember when they turned on the fire? I agreed, and I said, yes, I remember. And she said, well, I saw something. What did you see? And she said it was like a movie in my head, except for it was outside of my eyes. It was all around me. It sounded like she was having some kind of a vision. I said, what did you see? And she said, I saw men with swords all around, and I saw men in robes, and they were white robes. Some of them were holding tall sticks with shiny gold crosses on the top. And she said they were very, very scary. They were gonna make me die. And so instead I walked into a big fire. And I said, what do you mean you walked into a fire? She said, they were gonna kill me anyway. I actually gasped and fell against the wall. It made complete sense to me now how awful that night must have been for her. As her mom, I was utterly horrified. When Jada first started talking about this incident, I didn't have any idea what to expect. I didn't know if this was now over, if she had said what she needed to say and that was it, and we'd never hear about it again. But what actually happened was the floodgates opened. Rather than becoming frightened by this memory, she suddenly became very curious and wanted to know more about it. Jada started drawing a lot of pictures. It was worrying to see this kind of artwork turning up in Jada's drawings. Obviously, this was something that was on her mind.
A lot of people would say that this is a kid with a very vivid imagination. When I heard the story from Mary Helen, the mask, the whole 9 yards, there was fire, I thought Jada had probably just seen a movie on TV about the KKK. That is my only explanation that I could say.
Once I began to connect the night of the Festival of the Fire with this picture that she continuously drew, I began to piece things together. From when she spoke of choosing me, choosing her father, her sister, some of these fears and insecurities that seemed just a little bit beyond the normal for a child. All of a sudden, I began to realize that we might be talking about a past life.